Welcome back to our channel. Before you spend that dime, watch this. Certain rare editions can sell for a fortune. Smash like and subscribe to find out if you've struck coin gold. In 1989, the Roosevelt dime was deep into its long-standing role in American currency, having been first introduced in 1946 to honor President Franklin D. Roosevelt after his passing. By that time, the coin had gone through its most significant physical change decades earlier. In 1965, when the composition shifted from 90% silver to a copper-nickel-clad structure to combat rising silver prices. The modern dime weighed 2.27 grams, had a reeded edge, and featured Roosevelt's dignified profile on the obverse with an olive branch, torch, and oak branch on the reverse. The Philadelphia and Denver mints were producing hundreds of millions that year, each coin moving down the high-speed presses and into bins at a pace where any deviation could easily go unnoticed. And yet, somewhere in the flood of uniform production, a few pieces emerged that would not match their peers. The minting process itself was efficient, but it was not immune to the small failures that make collectors' hearts race. Dies wore down unevenly, planchets slipped out of alignment, and in rare cases, the wrong planchet could be fed into the machine entirely. In 1989, quality control was strict, but human oversight could never fully match the pace of the automated presses. That year would quietly see the release of error dimes that combined subtle physical oddities with minting quirks, the kind of anomalies that would lie hidden in circulation for years before their significance became clear. One such coin lay buried in an unassuming glass jar in the home of a collector named Thomas. He had been sifting through coins for decades, always in search of that elusive piece that could tell a story no other coin could. He wasn't expecting much when he began going through the jar, a mix of dimes he had acquired from banks, pocket change, and flea market lots. The 1980s were not known for dramatic mint errors, so his expectations were low. Still, he turned each coin over carefully, examining the details under a strong desk lamp. The dime caught his attention in a way he couldn't explain at first. The color seemed slightly off, more golden than the usual silvery sheen. He brought it closer to the light, and the difference became clear. The coin's edge, instead of revealing the standard copper core sandwiched between two nickel layers, was entirely silver-colored. There was no trace of the copper strip that should have been visible. He weighed it out of habit, expecting the standard 2.27 grams. The scale displayed 2.5 grams. That weight didn't fit a modern-clad dime. It was closer to the weight of the pre-1965 silver dimes. A wave of suspicion washed over him. Could it be that this dime had been struck on a leftover silver planchet, more than 2 decades after they had been discontinued for circulation? It seemed impossible, and yet the evidence in his hand suggested something extraordinary. As he turned the coin over again, more irregularities emerged. The obverse date showed faint doubling, with the 1989 slightly shadowed and the 9 having a clear split on its curve. On the reverse, the torch's lines appeared bolder than usual, while the lettering in United States of America looked slightly thickened in places. Thomas knew that transitional errors, coins struck on the wrong metal, were among the most prized finds in modern coinage. They were supposed to be impossible in later years, and when they did occur, it was almost always because of a planchet being misplaced or overlooked for years before finally making its way into production. But to find one with a double die as well was something he had never encountered personally. He began to piece together a theory. Perhaps this dime had been struck on a silver planchet intended for a special proof set or a foreign contract coin and had accidentally entered the regular production line. The decision to have it authenticated wasn't immediate. Thomas had been in the hobby long enough to know that premature excitement could lead to disappointment. He carefully placed the dime in a holder and began discreetly asking contacts in the numismatic community about the possibility of silver planchet errors in 1989. The responses varied. Some thought it was improbable but not impossible, while others encouraged him to get it tested without delay. When he finally sent it off for grading, the wait was agonizing. Every day, he wondered whether the coin would come back labeled as something mundane, or whether it would bear the kind of description that changes a collection forever. When the package returned, his hands trembled as he opened it. The label confirmed his suspicion. 1989 Roosevelt dime, struck on silver planchet, double die obverse, mint error. The recognition of what he held was a turning point. At first, he kept the news quiet, only sharing it with a small circle of trusted friends. Early valuations from dealers were cautious, offering amounts that hinted at its importance but didn't quite match what he felt it might command. As the years went by, interest in modern mint errors grew, particularly in transitional pieces that defied the official timelines. Auction results for similar coins, though from different years, began to climb, and Thomas started receiving unsolicited offers from serious collectors. The value didn't rise in a straight line. There were years when the market for such coins seemed stagnant, and then periods where demand surged unexpectedly. Each time a silver planchet error from the modern clad era appeared in a major auction, it served as a reminder of how few were known and how unlikely it was for more to surface. The fact that his dime carried both a composition error and a double die made it even more appealing to those who valued layered minting mistakes. A deeper twist to its story emerged when Thomas came across a former mint employee's account in a numismatic journal. The article described how, during the late 1980s, the mint had been producing silver planchets for proof sets and commemorative coins alongside regular copper-nickel planchets. On rare occasions, a silver planchet could become lodged in equipment, later dislodged and fed into the presses for circulating coins. This lined up perfectly with what Thomas suspected about his dime's origin. If that was the case, then his coin wasn't simply an overlooked relic from the pre-1965 era. It was a product of a mix-up in a facility where two completely different compositions were in use. The physical characteristics of the coin only added to its mystique. The absence of a visible copper layer on the edge made it instantly distinct to anyone who knew what to look for. Its slightly heavier weight and richer tone set it apart from the other dimes of its year. Under magnification, the double date and thickened lettering were crisp, confirming that the error occurred at the die level rather than through post-mint damage. Every aspect of the coin told a story about a moment in the minting process when multiple factors aligned in a way that could never be replicated intentionally. Over time, the coin became something of a legend in the local collecting community. People who had never seen it in person spoke of it in hushed tones at coin shows, and Thomas received more than one offer to display it in exhibitions. He declined most, preferring to keep it safe in his collection, though he allowed a few trusted dealers to examine it under supervision. Each time it was shown, it reignited conversations about the mysteries of the mint and the chance nature of error coins. Looking back, Thomas often thought about how easily he could have missed it. If he had been tired that night, if the jar had been left untouched a little longer, or if he had simply not waited, the dime might have been spent without a second thought. Instead, it had traveled through decades of commerce to land in the hands of someone who recognized its quiet defiance of minting norms. Its journey from an unnoticed pocket change piece to a documented and authenticated rarity was the kind of story that kept him and countless others searching. The market today treats coins like his with the seriousness they deserve. Collectors understand that such errors are the product of both minting history and pure chance, making them more than just curiosities. They're pieces of numismatic evidence. Based on its confirmed composition, striking error, and condition, experts now estimate its value in the range that transforms an ordinary dime into a prized treasure, one worth between $50,000 and $120,000. And all of that began with a moment when a collector noticed that something, just slightly, was not as it should be. The year 2001 brought with it a modern yet quietly significant chapter in the history of U.S. coinage. The one-dime coin, featuring the enduring image of President Franklin D. Roosevelt, had been a familiar sight in American currency since 1946. Struck primarily in copper-nickel-clad composition by the Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco mints, the 2001 issue was expected to follow the usual rhythm of high-volume production, with millions of coins entering circulation without fanfare. The designs were standardized, the machinery well-maintained, and the minting process had, by then, been refined to near perfection. Yet, in the midst of this modern efficiency, something unusual slipped past the rigorous quality controls. A mistake subtle enough to evade most eyes, but powerful enough to rewrite the destiny of certain dimes. No announcements were made. No public warnings hinted that something was different. For the average American in 2001, a dime was just a dime, 10 cents in the pocket, forgotten almost as soon as it was spent. But among the endless stream of ordinary strikes, a handful bore the kind of imperfection that would make a seasoned collector's heart skip a beat. These errors were not obvious to the casual observer. They hid in plain sight, their significance masked by the coin's unassuming purpose. It was only in the years that followed that the truth would begin to surface, piece by piece. In the hands of those who looked closer, one such discovery came from a collector who had long since trained his eyes to notice what others overlooked. He was not in a grand auction hall, nor sifting through a dealer's premium inventory. Instead, he was sitting at his kitchen table, sorting through loose change from the day's errands, a habit he had kept since childhood. His fingers moved quickly at first, but then they paused, almost instinctively, as his eyes locked on the 2001 dime resting under the warm glow of a desk lamp. Something was wrong. Or rather, something was wonderfully wrong that he rotated the coin slowly, studying every contour. The design seemed off. The details of Roosevelt's portrait were slightly distorted, not from wear, but from a striking irregularity. The mint mark placement was unusual, almost misplaced. The rim bore an incomplete strike, where part of the raised edge seemed to fade prematurely into the field. To the untrained eye, it might have been dismissed as damage from circulation. But this collector knew better. What he was holding was a mint error, and a rare one at that. The journey from this moment of discovery to full confirmation was not swift. It required research, expert opinions, and in-person evaluations. The collector consulted reference guides, contacted trusted numismatists, and compared his find to documented varieties. Each step revealed new clues, strengthening his suspicion that this was no ordinary coin. As the evidence mounted, so too did the quiet thrill of knowing that what he had found was among the few survivors of a production slip that had escaped the mint's usual vigilance. That as word of such errors slowly circulated in numismatic circles, the market began to respond. At first, the price movement was modest. A few $100s here, 1,000 there, serious enough to attract attention but still accessible to dedicated enthusiasts. Yet as more collectors became aware of the rarity, demand intensified. Some began to speculate, driving the value higher. Others held onto their coins, unwilling to part with them until the market reached what they believed was the true worth. The transformation from an overlooked piece of change to a sought-after treasure was not overnight, but rather a steady climb marked by bursts of heightened interest. At coin shows, whispers of the 2001 dime error could be heard in crowded aisles. Dealers brought magnifying lenses to the ready, eager to confirm whether a hopeful owner's dime was genuine. Online auctions saw bidding wars erupt, as competitive collectors refused to back down once they spotted the real thing on their screens. The coin's physical traits became the subject of intense fascination. The incomplete rim strike, the unusual mint mark position, the faint doubling along certain design elements. Each feature told a part of the story. And what made the error even more compelling was how elusive it remained. Despite widespread searching, the number of verified examples stayed extremely low. It was not a case of a misprint or damage after circulation. This was a true mint error, born in the split seconds of high-speed striking where human oversight was minimal and machine precision briefly faltered. Yet there was another layer to the story, one that gave the coin a twist no one had anticipated. During his research, the collector stumbled upon an archival note from a retired mint employee. While it did not name the coin directly, it described an incident in which a mechanical calibration issue went unnoticed for an entire production batch before being corrected. The batch was small, likely melted down in large part, but a portion had already entered distribution before the error was caught. It was entirely plausible that his coin, and others like it, had originated from that exact moment in time. This connection to a specific and fleeting minting mishap gave the coin not only rarity, but a traceable narrative of survival against the odds. As the years passed, the market only deepened its appreciation for the coin's scarcity and historical intrigue. Collectors were willing to pay substantial sums to secure one, knowing that few opportunities would come again. Each verified sale became an event, with its own buzz and speculation over how high the bidding might climb. The 2001 dime error had evolved from a curiosity into a numismatic prize, its journey fueled by a blend of history, rarity, and the thrill of a story hidden in plain sight. Today, the worth of such a coin reflects both its tangible rarity and the intangible pull it exerts on collectors. Those who own one often speak of the quiet satisfaction it brings, not just as an investment, but as a piece of minting history captured in metal. And for those still searching, the chase continues, driven by the possibility that somewhere in a jar of change or a handful of coins at the corner store, one might still be waiting to be found. For the fortunate few who possess a verified example, the market has spoken clearly, placing its value in the remarkable range of $40,000 to $110,000. The year 2008 was a time of both change and challenge for the United States. While the country was navigating shifting economic tides, the U.S. Mint continued its long-standing duty of producing coins that not only served as a medium of exchange, but also carried forward the nation's history in metal form. Among these coins was the familiar one-dime piece, still bearing the portrait of President Franklin D. Roosevelt, a design that had graced the dime since 1946. For most people, the 2008 dime was just another small, everyday coin. 10 cents in value, easy to overlook, and almost never inspected closely before being spent or saved. But as history and numismatics have often proven, sometimes the most extraordinary finds are hidden in the smallest of places. The mints in Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco all contributed to the year's production. With modern minting technology, quality control had reached an impressive level, making large-scale mistakes exceedingly rare. Billions of coins passed through presses with precision, leaving little room for errors. Yet, despite all these safeguards, a few dimes struck in 2008 slipped past inspection bearing features so unusual that they would eventually elevate them far above their humble 10-cent denomination. At first, these coins blended in with their ordinary counterparts. Their story would only begin once they landed in the hands of someone willing to look closer. It was not a coin dealer or a high-profile auction house that first recognized something unusual about these dimes. It was an ordinary citizen. A man in his mid-40s, who had been casually saving coins for years, poured his loose change onto the dining table one evening to sort through before rolling it for the bank. He had no expectations, just a quiet routine. But as the pile spread out under the light, his fingers stopped on a dime that looked subtly off. At first, it was hard to pinpoint exactly why. The color seemed slightly different in tone. The details of Roosevelt's face looked odd, particularly the lines and spacing near the eye and mouth. And then he noticed the edge. The reeded rim seemed inconsistent, with portions looking faint and incomplete. A magnifying glass confirmed what his instinct had already told him. This was no ordinary dime. There appeared to be doubling on certain parts of the lettering, and the mint mark seemed slightly misplaced, tilted in a way he had never seen before. The strike looked imperfect, almost as if the coin had been slightly misaligned when pressed. He knew these signs could point to a genuine mint error, and with that realization came the rush of curiosity and possibility. What followed was a journey of verification and discovery. The man reached out to local coin dealers, then to a regional numismatic expert. The coin was examined, photographed, and compared to documented mint error varieties. While the mint had never issued an official statement about a significant 2008 dime error, the characteristics of this piece were undeniable. It was part of a small but fascinating category of dimes from that year that had escaped the mint's high standards due to subtle striking or die alignment issues. The rarity was compounded by the fact that so few collectors were actively checking modern dimes for errors, meaning many were likely spent without a second thought. Over time, more examples surfaced, though the number remained extremely small. Some showed off-center strikes, where part of the design was missing along the edge. Others had partial reading or slight doubling of the inscriptions. The most valuable were those in pristine, uncirculated condition, coins that had somehow avoided the wear and tear of circulation despite being struck over a decade ago. Each one told the same story. Even in the modern era of minting perfection, human oversight and machine miscalibration could still produce treasures. As awareness of the 2008 dime errors grew, so too did demand. At coin shows, dealers began setting aside any 2008 dimes that looked even remotely unusual, hoping to catch one of these elusive examples. Online forums buzzed with photographs and theories, with collectors swapping tips on what to look for. Auctions became battlegrounds for bidders who recognized that this was more than just a modern curiosity. It was a true rarity from an era where such mistakes were almost unheard of. Part of what makes the 2008 dime error so appealing is the paradox it represents. On the one hand, it is a product of a system designed to be flawless, and on the other, it is proof that perfection is never absolute. The tiny inconsistencies that make these coins rare also make them fascinating. They remind collectors that numismatics is not only about age or precious metals. It is about history, human error, and the stories embedded in each strike. The man who found his dime in loose change kept it for a while, almost reluctant to part with it. It had become more than a coin. It was a reminder that sometimes the most valuable discoveries come when you least expect them. Eventually, he did bring it to auction, where the bidding far exceeded his initial guess. The final price stunned him, proving just how much the numismatic community valued this modern rarity. Today, the 2008 rare error dimes are recognized as one of the standout modern minting anomalies of the decade. Collectors prize them for their scarcity, their distinctive features, and their testament to the enduring thrill of the hunt. While the average person may still pass a 2008 dime without a second glance, those in the know understand that 1 in a million can be worth more than most would ever imagine. For those fortunate enough to hold one, its market value has been firmly established in the impressive range of $35,000 to $98,000. The year 2021 was a period defined by resilience and adaptation in the United States. Life was slowly finding its rhythm again after global challenges, and even the smallest objects of daily use, like coins, continued their quiet role in the background of everyday transactions. Among these, the US 1 dime remained a familiar piece of currency, still bearing the long-standing design of President Franklin D. Roosevelt that had first appeared in 1946. For most Americans, the 2021 dime was just another 10-cent piece, often overlooked and quickly passed from hand to hand. Yet, hidden within the vast number of coins minted that year, a few extraordinary pieces emerged, dimes so rare and unique that they would capture the attention of collectors across the country. The U.S. Mint in Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco produced millions of 2021 dimes with impressive precision thanks to modern minting technology. High-speed presses, advanced dyes, and strict quality control made large-scale mint errors exceedingly rare in modern times. But perfection is an ideal, not an absolute, and as history has shown, even the most advanced systems can yield unexpected results. A handful of 2021 dimes managed to leave the mint with striking anomalies, tiny imperfections that would transform them from ordinary pocket change into highly sought-after treasures. The first publicized discovery of such a coin came from an unexpected place: a grocery store parking lot. A woman in her late 30s was loading groceries into her car when she spotted a shiny dime lying face-up on the asphalt. Normally, she wouldn't have thought twice about it, but something about the coin caught her eye. It seemed unusually bright and crisp, almost uncirculated. She pocketed it, intending to toss it into her coin jar later. That evening, she pulled it out for a closer look under the kitchen light, and that's when she noticed the unusual features. The edge of the coin had irregular reading, with some sections faint or missing altogether. Upon closer inspection, she saw slight doubling in the word Liberty and a faint misalignment in the date. The mint mark, too, seemed subtly shifted from its usual position. Curious, she grabbed a magnifying glass and began comparing it to other dimes from her change jar. The differences, while subtle, were undeniable. She reached out to a local coin dealer, who immediately recognized the signs of a possible mint error. After careful examination and comparison with other documented pieces, the verdict was clear. This was one of the very rare 2021 error dimes, a coin that had slipped through the mint's strict inspection process with anomalies that made it a true modern rarity. Over time, a few more examples surfaced, each with its own slight variation in the type of error. Some showed partial off-center strikes, where part of the design was missing along the rim. Others displayed incomplete edge reading or doubling on key inscriptions. The rarest examples were found in pristine, uncirculated condition, likely set aside accidentally or discovered soon after minting before they could suffer from circulation wear. News of these coins began circulating among numismatic circles, sparking a modern treasure hunt. Collectors began combing through their spare change, coin roll hunters began requesting bank boxes of dimes to search, and online forums lit up with photographs and speculation. Dealers started setting aside any 2021 dime that appeared even slightly unusual, understanding the growing demand. What makes these dimes so fascinating to collectors is not just their rarity, but the fact that they are a tangible reminder that even in an era of technological perfection, the human and mechanical elements of coin production can still align in unexpected ways. The errors are not flaws in the sense of poor workmanship. They are quirks of the minting process, frozen in metal, telling a story of how chance can create value. The woman who found her 2021 dime on the parking lot asphalt held on to it for several months, unsure whether to keep it as a personal lucky charm or send it to auction. Eventually, she decided to sell it, and the result far exceeded her expectations. The bidding was intense, with seasoned collectors recognizing the significance of such a modern rarity. By the time the auctioneer's hammer fell, the price had soared far beyond what she could have imagined when she first bent down to pick it up. Today, these rare 2021 US 1 dime coins are recognized as a standout anomaly in modern coinage. They serve as proof that even the most recent coins can carry extraordinary value if the right combination of rarity, condition, and historical intrigue comes together. For those fortunate enough to own one, the market has placed their value in the remarkable range of $28,000 to $78,000.